The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you are a seasoned, grizzled federal employee just starting, or whether you are a little baby ingenue just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. Grab your coffee or your green juice or your Monster Energy drink if you're like me. And kick back, and we will tell you what you may have missed in the space this week. We are your host. I am Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by the king of the frigid tundra himself, Mr. Dan Sipe, snowed in beautiful.
I'm not
Maryland.
snowed in because I have a disorder. Okay, I'm the first guy out on the snow. And when my two robust children went away to college, I invested in a snowblower. So I usually take mercy on my neighbors if it's a weekend, but otherwise workday I'm out there at first light. So never snowed it. You know, actually big fan of the snow removal process. And hey, great word, ingenue. Yeah, really, really nice. Actually, as Katelyn, as you may know, Miss Mary is an opera singer. And when I first met her in college, she had the ingenue lead in Mozart's The Impresario. So she was Miss Sweet Song. So that's my little culture moment.
Love it.
You know, and of course all the fans of Phantom, ingenue pops up in there where they're singing the song Prima Donna. It's like, what about your precious ingenue? No, signora, the world wants you.
This is the musical episode of the Fed15. We will be performing Phantom of the Opera for you today.
Yes. Yes, and
copyright notwithstanding.
Hopefully it goes better than Joaquin and Gaga did. In their musical. Yes. So what do we got today, Katelyn?
Well, we've got some really interesting topics today. We're looking at a couple of great pieces from the Serving Those Who Serve blog, planning for life after retirement. A lot of our feds tend to look at retirement. A lot of people in general, it's not just a federal disease, but a lot of folks will tend to look at retirement as a finish line of sorts. And there is a lack of planning around fulfillment and social design following that. And then we've also got a piece that Dan's actually going to cover on aging in place and how to plan for those sorts of things. Obviously, I think it's really interesting with the way that our population is structured currently. We have this big, huge chunk of the population that are kind of getting closer to retirement, that are looking at, retiring and then making choices around care and things like that in their old age. And I think that my generation is going to benefit massively, as we already kind of have, from the generation before it. Because the thing about baby boomers is they have opinions and they are going to let you know about them. And I love that. As someone who is following in the footsteps of the baby boomers, I love that because they're insisting on having choices. And I like that. They do not want to just retire, go into a nursing home and have, round the clock care. They want to stay in their home. They want to have options. They want to, kind of have a focus on quality of life. And I love that. So Dan, tell us about how we can plan for aging in place.
Absolutely.
And increase our options.
And actually it's something that Miss Mary and I are paying attention to even now. And, as you know, I'm not going anywhere as far as good Lord willing, my health continues to do well. I don't have any designs on hanging it up anytime soon, but the day will come. And you are absolutely correct. The baby boomers were profoundly impacted by the custodial care phenomenon that occurred with our parents. We all visited somebody in a facility, and I'm going to say to a person, we all swore we would never go to one. So now we've got active retirement communities and things like that, but also the option of aging in place. That's one of the things that's, interestingly enough, Katelyn, that's a little bit of a challenge with long-term care pricing right now. The actuarials based on our parents, if they went into that custodial situation, they did not live for decades after that. Well, boomers have decided we're not going into those situations. So we want things like in-home care. And it's not as expensive, but we are not reassuring the insurance companies that we're going to check out anytime soon. And that makes insurance companies nervous. So let's jump into the aging in place. If you like where you are, if you like your community, if you like your friends, if you like your doctor, there is no law that says in retirement you have to uproot. But you do need to make some choices as you run up to it to put yourself in the best position. So, we made sure we had a first floor master. Okay, so that's a big plus for us. There's still some things that we're going to need to do, making sure the showers are safe and things like that. But the biggest thing with aging in place, again, allows you to stay in your familiar surroundings. Many times you're going to preserve independence and you're going to have those connections with family, friends, and community. And that's what's going to feed you and keep you going. It's also many times more cost effective than any type of long-term care facilities. So the challenge is you may need to make some changes in your house, okay, to make sure that it's safe if you have limitations coming for your mobility or any emergencies. The cost of those home adaptations, you've got to plan for them. You've got to have a strategy in place. Some of those ones are the obvious ones we always know about, and we boomers hate talking about them. Grab bars and things like that. But let me tell you, things like chair lifts are becoming incredibly affordable. We were blessed to be able to look after my mother-in-law, and we did not have a great house for it. And getting a chairlift was an absolute lifesaver and a lot more affordable than people would think. And as we already know from Christina and Jacuzzi Bath Outfitters, okay, you can get an accessible bath in a day. So we've got those options out there. But and we know we've got those walk-in tubs that are popping into all of our feeds these days if we're over the age of 55, and possibly even looking at lowered counters. The biggest thing, folks, and as you can see, I'm pretty enthusiastic about this. Within the next decade, we are going to have home automation machines in our houses. Okay, Amazon's got a test robot going right now. Peter Diamandis projects that there will be 80 million domestic robots in the next 2 decades available at prices that are shockingly affordable. So we're going to have things to consider to go along with that. Start learning, start leaning into the advancements in home technology, emergency alerts, consulting specialists that you can contact if you have an emergency or a problem. There are an incredible amount of resources that are out there. And to me, that is just great news for somebody like me. Don't let the boyish looks fool you, folks. I'm 68 years old, so next stop for me is a 70 number. So I'm thinking about this a lot. Now, the great thing about being in federal service is you have some resources. So your FEHB may cover some durable medical equipment like grab bars if medically necessary. Structural modifications typically not covered from that one, but your FSA, if you have funds in there, you can certainly use those. If you were wise enough and fortunate enough to get into the federal long-term care insurance program, there are benefits in there for home services and some accessibility modifications. Unfortunately, new enrollments are frozen until next December. But if you're already in there, make sure you familiarize yourself with those things. Most feds, you've got a TSP that you've built up. There's some things that you can do utilizing TSP funds TSP funds, you probably want to consult your financial advisor to make sure that you're going with the best strategies there. And if you have served your government through the military, you may qualify for grant adaptations through the VA to improve the accessibility in your house. So aging in place can really be a good thing. It can keep you engaged and vibrant and alive longer, but you need to start planning now. Use federal benefits, use the financial resources that you build up, talk to somebody who can guide you through it. We're happy to have those conversations. I'm not the guy that you want to talk to about sawing out a wall and doing that type of thing, but as far as paying for it, sure, I think we can have those conversations. But start now. Your future self, which is not that far down the road, will thank you.
For sure. Definitely closer than it appears. I have to say, on the grab bar front, I have grab bars in my bathroom because I was the beneficiary of somebody who had already done some upgrading mobility-wise in the home. And those grab bars are a lifesaver on leg day. So even my fresh-faced self, I use my grab bars.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
So now, Katelyn, a lot of people don't know, but you are incredibly versed in the psychological side of financial planning. So you are incredibly well suited to talk about the other side of the transition from work life to life not working for a living. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as a financial planner, a lot of the folks that we see, right, that come to have a conversation about retirement are worried about things like, when should I collect Social Security? What is my first pension going to be? What should I take out of my TSP and how much should I take out of my TSP and when should I take it out of my TSP and taxes and FEHB and yada, yada, yada. Sure. And all of those things are very important things that we do need to have conversations about. And Serving Those Who Serve does a massive amount of work putting content out there for free that is not behind a paywall for folks who want to learn about those sorts of things. And we also have a team of financial planners who are, well-versed and can help you build a retirement strategy that addresses every single one of those items. What I think often people do not address is, what is that retirement going to look like when you're in it? When you've already figured out the first pension, when you've already figured out the Social Security benefit, when you've already figured out the TSP distributions, what is all of it for, right? And as a financial planner, we're in the position, we talk to folks about retirement and their dreams and what they want to achieve, and we have really wonderful, satisfying experiences where we help people build that. And then we do have experiences where you've got folks who are just narrowly focused on work, and then I want to be done with work. Unfortunately, over a decade of doing this, what you see is those people don't tend to fare well in retirement because they didn't have a plan for what it was going to be. And so they tend to just stop. And in life, when that happens, there's not a whole lot left beyond that. So as part of, my work as a financial planner, and Dan, you've alluded to this, I come from a financial psychology, behavioral finance background. So I'm really interested in the why. Why do we do the weird things that we do around money? And also, how can we psychologically plan for retirement and all of the stuff that's not optimizable from a financial perspective, right? So retirement, no doubt, is a major, major milestone in your life. We should absolutely not conceive of it as a finish line. It is a transition. It is the closing of a chapter. And the closing of a chapter necessitates the beginning of a new chapter, right? So shifting your mindset there, I think, is really helpful. You want to focus on new adventures. There will also be new uncertainties to tackle, as there always are in life. But really planning for what that retirement looks like and what you want to achieve there is really important. A lot of people decide that for them, that's volunteer work. They were busy throughout their working lives. They didn't have the time that they wanted to devote to the causes that are important to them. And so they spend time mentoring youth, supporting veterans organizations, looking at disaster response efforts, particularly if you are special provisions-y type of person. Depending on where you are in special provisions, there are some really interesting disaster response groups that you can join and travel and be able to help people while, responding to disasters. And also, travel a little bit and see some of the world. There's also serving on local government advisory boards. I'm a huge fan of this. I think government starts at the local level, and that's where you can really affect change in your community that you can see in a meaningful way. And unfortunately, it's often neglected.
Yes, Miss Mary said I'm not allowed to run for mayor. She's made that incredibly clear. So I'm going to have to find something else. But
oh, man, you would have had this Virginian's vote. Not that it would be.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also, volunteer work is one thing, but if there is a private sector role that you've been interested in trying on, there are private sector roles that really value federal experience. Consulting is a huge thing for our feds. So many of our feds kind of downshift into retirement by taking a consulting career after they've retired from the federal government. And yeah, it is very lucrative. Teaching is another area, and subject matter expertise in policy or management. A lot of times you can kind of parlay that into some private sector roles, and this can help you stay professionally active, maybe at a different rate, maybe you're part-time, but it can help you stay professionally active and really use what you learned in your federal career to continue making the world a better place, right?
Absolutely.
The big key here is you want to have purpose in your retirement. You need to think about how much social interaction you get at work. And even for my folks who are married, if you think that you're married and you're going to retire and get all your social interaction from your spouse probably has a different idea in mind, let me tell you.
Miss Mary says I don't have to go to work, but I just can't stay here the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. You need humans thrive on variety, and we need that social interaction. We are at our core social beings, even the introverts amongst us. And so when you're thinking about retirement, think about things like, where am I going to get my social interaction? Where am I going to get my sense of fulfillment? Right? At the end of the day, when you've done you've been really productive at work, you've gotten things done, you've, moved the needle, whatever kind of corporate speak you want to use. At the end of the day, when you have that sense of I matter and I did important things today, you need to mindfully build that in retirement, because it's there's a lot of structure that comes with having a job that you go to every day. And when you retire, you need to kind of mindfully build some of that structure for yourself. So start looking into exploring your passions, your hobbies, the things that may have been overlooked in your career that you wish you'd had more time to explore that do bring you that sense of fulfillment. Consider getting involved in your community. The big thing here is staying connected. Mm-hmm. So there are federal retiree associations that exist. There are local groups for retirees that exist. And I know it sounds hokey, and you might be the person who is listening to this going, Katelyn, I don't need to join some group of old people who get together and talk about what it's like being old. But really, staying connected is huge to your well-being in retirement. And if you can stay physically active as well, that's huge too.
Hit the weights.
Muscle mass.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. I know I'm sounding like a meathead here. And yes, I was a mediocre athlete through my entire youth. But as I'm closing in on 70, the difference in my life when I made sure a number of years ago that I started to take care of the physical structure, mm-hmm. I can feel places where I would have fallen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, I didn't fall. So sorry, that's
it's especially
my OG addition there.
Yeah, no, it's especially huge for our female listeners too. The weights are not just for the dudes. Like preserving muscle mass for us as women is one of the most important. Like your measure of muscle mass is one of the leading indicators as a woman of your longevity. Because it's really hard for us to keep that muscle mass after a certain point. So if you're not mindfully doing something to build it and retain it, you're not going to have it. And I'm not saying you have to become Lady Arnold over here. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, but keeping that muscle mass is really important. So preparing for a smooth transition, obviously start planning early. Before you're retired, start looking at your post-retirement options. Look at things like, where are you going to live? Are you going to be in a community, in an over 55 plus community where there's kind of in social structure built in? Or are you more of the person you want to stay in your home? You want to age in place, as Dan was talking about. ask yourself how you're going to build that social component in, how you're going to build that component of fulfillment and purpose in, and, start identifying opportunities to do that. Keep a Word document or keep a journal and just kind of write down ideas of things. I don't have time to focus on this now, but at some point, I'd love to learn how to do embroidery or what have you. It's really important to think through this stuff. I know it seems like soft stuff, but it really does make a difference in your quality of life and your psychological well-being. You don't want to work your butt off to retire in order to have a lackluster retirement. So,
don't waste away.
Yep. Absolutely. And if you have no idea where to start, there's all sorts of career coaches, financial planners who can help you, address that. Because while we do help our clients with the financial aspect of things, I think you'll agree with me, Dan, that financial planning is a holistic sort of gig, and you can't really do one half of it without the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a head job. It's a heart job. Make sure you do both jobs.
When done correctly, for sure.
Indeed. Well, folks, I think we went a little bit long, but I'm actually fine with that because I think we gave some really good points to help our feds, because we love you guys, about how to do that next act. Okay. And that's the way I view it. You may know from listening to Katelyn, I have theatrical backgrounds. Curtain closes on one act, curtain comes up on the next one.
Yeah.
So there's another act coming, and you deserve to make it great. So that is all the time we have, but be sure to check back with us, because we're going to be back here next week to bring you the latest updates that you need to know to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
For sure. And analytics, year end, beginning of the year, we've been reviewing some things. Analytics shows us that 82% of the folks who are watching our videos are not yet subscribed. So
which
if
is
you
nuts,
are
'cause it's free.
listening, yeah, right. If you're listening to us, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, make sure that you are subscribed so that you never miss an episode. Same thing for Spotify. If you listen there, make sure you're subscribed. You can also find us at STWServe.com. All our podcast episodes are there on the website as well. Please, please, please remember to also share with your friends and colleagues and encourage them to subscribe as well. I think this podcast is a really easy weekly way to kind of stay up to date on what you need to know and what you don't. And if you need to do a deep dive, then our website's there for you.
Absolutely. And for more information on these topics and more, be sure to check out our blog. That's blog.stwserve.com. Or better yet, just subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Survey, and we'll ship it to you. Okay. You don't want to read it that week? No problem. Okay. Hang on to it, delete it, whatever. But know that it's going to be coming to you next week and every single week, giving you our best and latest stuff delivered straight to your inbox every week.
For sure. Absolutely. And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for feds, we do encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. These webinars are great, folks. There's nothing like them out there, genuinely, for free. They are totally 100% free for you to attend, and we cover every major area and some of the not so major areas of federal employee benefits. If you've never attended a webinar with us before, a really great place to start is with our FERS webinar. That goes over the federal employee retirement system under FERS. That'll be February 4th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So February 4th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we've got an FEHB webinar. If you're curious about your healthcare, which who isn't? FEHB, totally easy to understand, right, Dan? We have a session there on January 29th from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And Dan the man will be hosting that one for us.
Absolutely.
So you can stop by and tell him the Fed15 sent you. Of course, if you prefer a one-on-one approach, maybe you've been to a webinar or two with us, maybe that's how you got here to the Fed15, and you are curious to kind of take things to the next level, have that one-on-one consultation, feel free to reach out to our team directly for financial planning consultation at askstws@stwserve.com.
Indeed. And owing to an interesting scheduling situation over the next 6 weeks, I'm in the rotation, so you might even get stuck with me. If you do that. So that might be an incentive. That might not be. We'll see. But okay. Thank you all for listening to the Fed15. I'm Snow Miser, Dan Sipe.
And I am heat miser Katelyn Marie, and I got to get out of here and get somewhere tropical, folks, before I lose my mind.
And we will see you all next week.
See you then.